Hi, welcome to Old Guys, Gentlemen, Fountain Pens. Yes, we're not going to be talking about knives today, although I do have a separate channel on that. We'll be talking about fountain pens. This will be the first episode, and what I'll be talking about is how I got into fountain pens and what I plan to be doing with these reviews in the future and where I'm going to be going with it all. Now, how I got started was... this is made by the Grimsmo brothers up in Canada. It's called a Grimsmo Rask. It's my favorite knife. And so I follow these guys a lot on Instagram and YouTube and other social media. And something popped up where they say that their favorite pen is Tactile Turn Grist. I think I have that name right. And so I was thinking, well, if these guys who can make something as lovely and great as this say they like this particular pen, then I'm going to go ahead and get it. Now my cursive sucks, but wouldn't it be fun to have a pen like this? You know, already in my EDC, my everyday carry, I carry a tactical flashlight and a knife, and what I usually carry is like a tactile pen. So while I'm running away from who's ever attacking me, I guess I pull these out of my pocket and throw them at people, right? Any case, I started thinking, well, I don't need, if I'm carrying a knife like this, I don't need to have a metal pointy object. So why not get a nice pen? And between that and what the Grimsmo brothers said, I got this Tactile Turn. And the other thing that I like about it is that it's got this that's a Damascus steel. I forget the name of it, but I'll post it on there, the very top of the pen. So I started writing with it, and found out quickly that, and I'll be doing a separate review on this. I started out quickly that, my handwriting kind of sucks. It's kind of like all over the place. So I figured, well, why don't I learn a specific handwriting? I spent a lot of time looking at, copper plate, where everything's going like this all the time, Spencerian and the Palmer method and business writing. And what I came back to was, I think it's called medium hand Spencerian, where an A is like this and a B is... if I can remember this. And so on. C. So it's going to be a while and I'll learn all this. But one of the things you get that you want to try and do with Spencerian is do some line variation or shading. So for instance, in true Spencerian, this area right here would be twice as thick. Same with maybe the B and the C. And it adds like an extra cool flair to the thing. It doesn't have the stuff that you see in copper plate, or there's a Spencerian lady's hand. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if my regular handwriting, and we went on vacation recently, and I actually started keeping a log, blog, so I can practice my handwriting and have fun with these pens. So I thought, well, why don't I get a better pen than that? So what I got was, and this isn't necessarily a better pen, but one that might have a little bit more. I learned that if you can spread the tines, these two things on either side of the nib, that you'll get a little bit of shading. So for instance, on this one, one way to kind of show it is to do your thin lines across like that and then put a little pressure on it. And so that's a pretty good spread on that. But on the Pilot, It's a little bit thinner, and this is a Pilot Metropolitan, I think. And by the way, here's something I got to figure out how to do better is take care of my knives. I scraped a little black paint off of that. So here, actually it feels a little bit stiffer than this, so I'm not sure why I thought this one would be better than that. The other thing that people do to check the thing is they do these curlicues where on the downstroke, try and spread the spines. And so this is a nice pen. I like this, but I still am going for a little bit more of that line variation. And I think what I did next was I spent a lot of money, or for me it was a lot of money, on this platinum. I think that's a gold nib on there. Yeah, I'm such a beginner on this stuff. So for instance on this one, let's see if we do. I was surprised how stiff it was. The other thing I should have for these things is for these reviews is a loop. But it's a really nice looking pen. It's kind of probably can't see it there, but it's a really dark blue, but you can light kind of shines through it, so it's like dark blue transparent, I guess you'd say. And as you can see, there's some variations in ink here. I've been playing around with trying to understand different inks. Also, this comes with this neat fill system. It's a piston, I think, and you twist this. But all of this stuff will come later. I'm sounding like a real beginner because this is like one of my first, not one of my first video. I think the next one I got, this is Lamy Safari, not the 2000. 2000's very different. And again, I'll be doing a review on all these. This is rock hard. Not bending at all. Also sounds a little scratchy too. So I'm gonna have to work on that. And I'll show you in some of the videos about how I can polish up the tips a little bit or check to make sure the tines are aligned. This is kind of an inexpensive pen and probably a good one to experiment with. And then we went on a trip recently, and along the trip, this has no brand. It's made by a woodworker up in Port Angeles, and he told me it was a vintage nib, and I do not think it is. And it looks pretty, and the spread's not too bad. The variation, actually, there it looks a little, but this is called, I think that's called railroading. It's the feed can't keep up. Yeah, so I probably need to clean this one. So I wasn't really particularly happy with that purchase. I mean, it looks okay, but it's not a really good pen for this. And then we went over to Vancouver, and this is just like a week ago, and I got this Aurora 88. Again, a separate review on this. Really nice, cool looking pen. The dealer there had some shoddy practices, and it took me a while to figure it out. I told him I wanted like an extra fine nib, and he gave me one, and it was like a broad. And then I went in and complained about it, and he changed the nib, and he says, "Oh, I think this one's extra fine, but on here there's a little mark where it said M." And I said, "Well, that's a medium." And then he showed me another pen that had an M on it. It was a different kind of tip. My thought is he probably swaps and changes nibs as necessary for customer preference or whatever. So I ended up buying an extra fine nib, and so that's what this one is. So let's see. Just do a couple letters here. It writes pretty well, has a nice spread. But this guy and others had said, well, if you get a gold nib, you'll get that really nice, line variation. There's some, but not a lot. Okay, but that's a nice pen. All these are good pens, except the wood one kind of maybe isn't so hot. And then I stopped at this place called the Vancouver Pen Shop in British Columbia. Really great store. People really know their stuff. People are very friendly, willing to spend time with you to understand what you want. And I went in there and I said I wanted to do Spencerian, and they said, we're going to need a dip pen for that. I said, well, I thought I'd seen stuff on YouTube. And they said, well, yeah, but maybe there's some pens that can do that, but we don't have any. And I had done some research, and I saw that there was a Namiki Falcon or a Pilot Falcon, soft extra fine, that sort of thing. And they said, well, we don't have any of those. But they said you might consider, they called it just the Pilot Falcon. And I think it's actually a Pilot Custom 912 with a gold, 14 karat gold pen. And this thing, I asked for fine or extra fine, they said, well, it doesn't come in that, it's just a Falcon. And you can kind of see here, and again, I'll be doing a more in-depth view of this, but if you look at that, the nib on there, there's those scalloped out areas that make it more flexible. And this thing, you can do a lot of stuff with. Do an O here. An A or a K. And nice thin lines, really nice broad lines. And so, wow, I'm there. This is the pen where I can do my Spencerian script with. But then an epiphany hit me, and this is probably one of the most important things I can offer in this video. And that is, if you want to spread the tines so you get line variation or shading, you pretty much have to pull down on the nib to spread the tines. And you can pull a little bit off to one side or to the other. This pen's getting up. But you almost have to change your hand position. And while I was doing this, I was started thinking, well, all right, that's the reason why you need to have a dip pen, so that you have your wood handle here and the nib is pointed over like this. Because in Spencerian stuff, a lot of what you'll see is a lot of the letters, the caps especially, are like shaded here, and if you're sitting properly, you're going to have to be dragging like one tine against another. You won't be pulling down, you'll be pulling at an angle. So what I found out is, well, one thing you can do, let's do one thing you can do is if you shift your hand over like this, then you can kind of, pull down that way. Or you can you can twist the paper just for that one particular, so you can create that shading down. But you can't create this when you're normally not well. So the bottom line here is for doing shading and line width variations, you need to be pulling directly down, or maybe a little bit off to the left or the right. But if you go too much further away from going straight down, so you pretty much need to be pulling straight down. You know, even if you go out to the edge, you need to, you know, rotate your hand a little bit so you're still pointing straight down. Or what you'll have to do is, you can pull straight down, but as soon as you start going this way, you're going to have to just do a regular line. So I'm not going to go for having a dip pen, because that's not something I can bring to a coffee shop and write in a journal or a letter or something like that. But I can see, you know, writing with this, and see, this one guy always writes. Man. So anyhow, I hope you got some value out of that. It's a little disjointed. I'll get better on later ones, and they'll be more specific to one particular pen. But what I got out of that is, if I want to do Spencerian, I need a pen like this, or one of the modified nib pens. And what I'm going to have to learn is, when I have shading that is not in the normal writing position straight down, I'm going to have to rotate my wrist or turn the paper or do something so that the movement of the pen is still straight down, so that you're spreading the tines apart this way and you're not spreading it that way or this way. So I hope you got some value out of that, and I know you get more value out of future ones when I kind of get my act together better on the individual reviews. Okay, thanks for watching.